I'm Riser.
I'm Easily.
And this is the laziest album review channel on fucking YouTube.
There's so much shit we missed in 2019 that this is just... yikes.
Yeah. So we're gonna make up for it now by, saying 2 words about albums that we gave somewhat of a shit about.
Or no shits about.
Or no shits about.
These are all albums that we wanted to review, but for one reason or another, we just didn't have a chance to. Either only one of us liked the album, or one of us listened to the band, and the other one just couldn't comment on it. Or this was just stuff that got away from us we didn't have time to do. We got too fucking lazy. So, I should also say that we're not going to be giving ratings for these.
Yeah.
Because...
that involves thought.
Yeah. First album I want to talk about is Spite's new album called The Root of All Evil. Honestly, I really like Spite. They, they hit that, sort of sweet spot between anger and heavy. But they've become a fucking joke. And I know I'm going to get a lot of shit for this, because Spite fans are the literal worst people on the planet.
Spite cult, motherfucker! I say as I grab my monster.
It's not that, Spite fans are the worst people in the world. It's the same thing with any sort of fandom, that there's some people that just take it too far. Yeah. And, I don't know, that doesn't affect my review of the album at all, but I did not like this album. I didn't like it at all, honestly. I think there was 1 or 2 songs that were remotely catchy. The Root of All Evil is the only notable one. But they just keep repeating cringy lyrics. I See You in Red has been said on every single album. Him repeating Spite or Spite Cult is just cringy as fuck. No offense.
He does that on every album?
Yeah, multiple different songs,
Yikes. Too. Okay. I'm justified in not listening to them then.
Yeah. I mean, they have good stuff. It's just not this one.
One album, I'm not going to shit on this album, but I don't love it either. Dream Theater's Distance Over Time. Now, I absolutely love Dream Theater. Some of my favorite albums ever are by Dream Theater. I think they're some of the greatest musicians ever to bless music. Sucking dick. But, like a lot of people, their last album really didn't do much for me. That, of course, being The Astonishing. This time around, there were some songs that I did like. But I don't think I liked this album as much as everybody else did. I heard a lot of people saying this is a return to form. This is a return to, heavy Dream Theater that we haven't had since, Train of Thought or Black Clouds and Silver Linings. And while I see where that's coming from, I feel that, even if it in its heaviest and, most inspiring moments, it just doesn't add up to what I'm used to hearing from great Dream Theater. There's great moments scattered all across this album, but I'm hard-pressed to find a song that I love all the way through, if that makes sense. And I just saw Dream Theater live not too long ago, and, they play the songs perfectly. It's not a matter of, they're not great musicians anymore. It's just that I feel like maybe I'm just a fucking douche in saying that Portnoy was a big part of it, and I'm still, missing that, but it is what it is. While I'm on the subject of prog bands that aren't what they used to be, in my opinion, Opeth's Cauda Venenum is an album, and I've been not a fan of. Again, I'm gonna sound like a dick. I've not been that much of a big Opeth guy since they've dropped their, signature death metal mixing of prog sound to where it now just sounds like, a lot of times to me, just Deep Purple songs, but more depressing. But, honestly, this album had some stuff that I really enjoyed on it. Definitely more so than albums like Heritage or Sorceress. This album is definitely their best in their new prog rock era, I guess you could say, at least in my opinion, and it seems to be in a lot of other people's opinions. I wouldn't hold it as high of a caliber as, say, classics like Still Life or Blackwater Park Damnation, all that. But nevertheless, I do think that any and all Opeth fans do need to listen to this most recent album, because it has really interesting shit to offer, even though that death metal edge that they did so well is gone.
So, Gamma Sector, their new album, Sanctum of Vivisection, man, this is a great album, ruined by a shitty mix. I love the sort of rough around the edges mixing style that they had on their EP, but this is just god awful. I would want my money back, honestly, if I paid for this, because if I paid for the mixing, because like this is just, it's ridiculous. Like it's so difficult to understand what the fuck is going on, and I can't tell you that I can't tell you with 100% sincerity that I've listened to the album in full, because I stop halfway through every time because I just don't enjoy it. The mix is just god awful. So, Signs of the Swarm's Vital Deprivation. This didn't sit well with me. It wasn't a terrible album, but it doesn't really do anything. Like, it sort of stays in the same place the whole album. All the songs are sort of inconsequential. But I do want to say the intro track has got to be one of the worst songs they've ever made. I
thought you were going to be like, the intro track, however, is really good, but...
It's like 47 seconds long or some shit like that. And it has all this build-up, and it does fucking nothing with it. And then it ends, and then it kicks off into one of the only notable songs on the album. And why the fuck is it there in the first place? Is it there to flex the new vocalist? I don't know, but it's just shitty and doesn't fit well into the album at all. Not my opinion.
Vitriol, To Bathe from the Throat of Cowardice. These guys, I was introduced through a friend of mine whenever they just had a couple singles out. And these guys are doing brutal death metal in a way that I don't think I've heard before, because I'm hearing the technicality and everything is there. The music is insanely complicated, but it is so unbelievably raw at the same time and aggressive that the meshing of those two worlds is done so perfectly. This is the most aggressive and just gross sounding, like, brutal death metal I have heard in a long time. It is very refreshing. Every single song is fucking in your face, unrelenting. You need to listen to it. For any brutal death metal fans, any technical death metal fans, these guys are going to be the next big thing. I guarantee it.
So, Infinite Annihilator's The Battle of Yaldabaoth. Now, it's no secret, I really like Infinite Annihilator, but I don't like them for a lot of the same reasons that most deathcore fans like them. I like the wacky, weird side to them. I enjoy the clear jokes and fun they have in the studio, but like, I can understand why people don't like this album as much as their previous. It's not breakdown centered. There's like one or two on the album in total, and one of them is a joke. And I feel like if you listen to them for the deathcore elements, you're probably not going to enjoy this album. But I don't know. I really liked it. I think the riffs are zesty as fuck. The whole album as a whole slaps. Plus, we get like that semi-experimentation that they did on Black Tongues and the Deer, which I fucking dig. So overall, I really like this album. It does have some issues though, but oh well.
I honestly tried listening to it because you told me that it was like new and refreshing and more in a tech death area. I just fucking hate their production style. It sounds too fucking like... I fucking hate that.
Yeah, fair enough.
And I love Archspire, so that's saying a lot. Cattle Decapitation, one of my personal favorite albums of the year. It's no secret that Cattle Decapitation have been, I think, progressively been getting... They've matured, they've honed in on their sound more, if you compare what they've been doing the past few years to their original shit, it's a completely different band, and it's all the better for it. We are huge fans of the Anthropocene Extinction. It's a perfect album,
100%.
regardless of like who you show it to. Like, it's a perfect album. There's no getting around it. And I was led to believe that this was going to be even bigger and better. And in a lot of ways, they did supersede it in the experimentation, trying new things, the message, we're all going to fucking die. They took it to the next step. However, after some close consideration, while I do love this album, I feel that it is not quite on par with their previous album.
It definitely has issues. I like the album too. I think it's good, but there's three there's an intro track and then two interlude tracks that are just like newscasters or broadcasters just
not
talking.
Needed.
They're not needed. I mean, it's cool for building atmosphere, but when the three tracks sound nearly identical, it just bogs the album down. When Cattle have that super aggressive sounding music, it would just be better to just have one as an intro and then something else as an interlude. I think it bogs it down the album too much. There's way too many songs I have to skip whenever I listen to the album.
Fit for an Autopsy is The Sea of Tragic Beasts. I was really looking forward to this one. And because the singles that they put out for it at first, especially the title track, arguably one of, if not the best songs like they've ever put out. And I was like, man, this is going to be fucking amazing, because it had the great balance of deathcore and even like mellow death in there. And while this album does have some good songs, man, it drops off after like the first 4 tracks. The singles were awesome. They're definitely the highlight of the whole album, because it just feels like, I don't know, the songs get lazier, they get just predictable. The last song on it, while it does have some cool parts, it gets really repetitive. It sounds like a Gojira ripoff a lot of times.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was really disappointed by this album.
Yeah, I've listened to them for a while, and I expect big things from them because they're a great band. They don't have a release I don't like, but this album was different. I was so hyped up after the first few songs that when it just started, the quality of them just started going downhill. I was super big oofers, big sad,
Big sad.
big sad,
Big sea of big sad.
sea
of sad beasts.
It's just, I don't know. If they could have kept up the quality of the songs throughout, I think it would have been a way better album, because those, like I said, those first 4 are just phenomenal.
Bangers.
Yeah. Engulf released a new EP this year called Transcend. Really fucking good. For a band that hasn't even put out a single full length, I was definitely surprised. I'd never heard of them before I started listening to this, and damn, those riffs are catchy. Really fucking catchy. The EP has a very thrashy feel to it, but it never really loses that overall death metal tone. It's just a great EP. 4 or 5 songs, just solid.
Leprous Pitfalls. I got turned on to Leprous whenever I saw them open up for Haken a few years ago. I don't know. I'm horrible with time. I was hooked ever since. So I was really looking forward to this, and it did not disappoint. They are able to construct songs that are progressive but very memorable and poppy. The vocals, obviously, if you know Leprous, you know that they stand alone. And this album, I can tell, is coming from a personal place from the singer. Forgive me, I don't know his name. But there's a lot of like theme of childhood trauma in the album, and it's an album that you need to listen to start to finish to just get the ambience, the tone, because the moments where like it's subtle and everything, like it really brings you in if you like just take the time to sit there. And then whenever it becomes powerful, you can just tell he is really letting out his emotion. I can't praise this album enough. I love it.
Evergreen by After the Burial. So, I'm not sure how to start this, but
He doesn't like it.
after with this album, they prove once again that they are only capable of writing one catchy single per album. They lost in the static with their last one, and Behold the Crown with this one, but every other song on this album sounds the exact fucking same, and it's not a good quality. I can't tell you the any different song titles besides Behold the Crown, because they're just so fucking bland. And I keep coming back to After the Burial in hopes that one day they'll release a quality album, because they have the potential to. It's just they don't, and it pisses me off. Like, there's so much potential there. You can see it in those singles that they release. They could be one of the catchiest bands ever, but the fact that they only put like creative power into one single an album really just pisses me off.
Vale of Noth's Accursed. This guy got me into Vale of Noth. Why I was sleeping on them for so long, I don't know. This album fucking slaps, and now my band is opening for it. Go check that show out. It's probably going to already happen by the time we fucking edit this. But no, they went from being really good tech death to now they're blending black metal, which I'm not a big black metal guy, but man, they do it well on here. You get the really raw, just gross sound of black metal, and the riffs are interesting and dynamic. Like, this album is really, 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 really good.
Yeah.
Care to add anything? You liked it too?
Yeah, I really like this album. Totally took me by surprise. I mean, I'm used to Vale of Nath being quality death metal, but this is just, I definitely think it's their best, and I think it's going to be super hard to top it. So, Futha by Heilung.
Fupa. By Jake's Love of Carbs.
So, when one of the most interesting bands on the planet releases an album, you tend to pay attention. This is definitely something. It's a great album. I love it, but I can't genuinely recommend it to everybody because not everybody's going to like it. It's not even technically metal. But the
talk about it anyway.
The originality with this band is just something else entirely, and I just fucking love it. And there's like the only very slight negative to this album is I don't like the studio version of Hammer or Hippier. That's the only issue. And that's so minor, it's inconsequential. It's a really good album, but I just can't recommend it to literally everybody. If you're into original bands and are into some weird shit, then yeah, definitely check them out. They'll blow your mind.
End of an Era, while it was a great album, man, it fucking sucked in terms of production. It was bad. So, they have come back with probably, honestly, my favorite production they have of any album, even more so than Revenant. And I love Revenant, but I think the production of this album is even tighter. Or at least it fits what they're doing a little bit better. The songs were always great, but I can appreciate them a lot more now. Especially with Stevie in the band, you know, he's an awesome vocalist, and you can tell he puts 100% into everything he does.
Which is tiring because he's in like a million bands.
Literally. Demiurgus by Equipoise.
It's, I've listened to it in total once because it's such a long fucking album. And I can enjoy tech death that's long. I can enjoy tech death that's short. But the mixing of this album really just
is scattered.
Yeah, some songs Stevie is so far back that I can't even tell he's doing vocals. And sometimes he's so far forward it's overbearing. And it's really weird because he wasn't like that live, so it's just, I know it's the mix and mastering on this album.
It feels like different songs were mixed by different people sometimes. Maybe they were. Maybe I don't know. I mean, I know that this is like this band's first material, so I mean, there's good shit on it. Don't get me wrong. Like, it just, there is. I remember distinctly that one song ended like way too abruptly.
Yeah.
And it was trying to go into another song, and it did not work.
Mm-mm. I mean, plus there's these guys are obviously talented, extremely talented, but there's some songs that just sound like a wall of noise. Like the music is so complicated that it's difficult to tell which is which, and it just sounds like a wall of sound. And I can't say I enjoy that, but if it's only like that on a couple songs. But other than that, it's not a bad.
It does have
album.
some standout shit on it.
Yeah.
I will say that.
It's not a bad album. It's just got some issues. Into the Depths of Veracity by Dawn of Demise.
Into the depths of her ass shitty.
So,
bitch.
They're like kind of slam, kind of brutal death metal, kind of whatever. I don't know. They're really fucking good. I will say this album doesn't really have any standout tracks. Like there's nothing that really pops out except for the title track. But that's not necessarily a bad thing with this album because it stays consistent throughout. And there's a definite sense of progression while you're listening to the album. You can tell that when the album's coming to a close, and it's just a good album. I wouldn't recommend it to someone who's just trying to get into slam or brutal death metal, but it's definitely good. Existential Disconnect by Organectomy. Man, what a great follow-up to Domain of the Wretched. I think that this has got to be one of the most original sounding technical slam bands that is out there right now. And this is just a better version of their previous album. The only thing it's really missing are those catchies. Could you fucking not? The only thing it's missing are those really fucking good instrumentals, which have no place in a slam album, but man, I am so sad they're not here. There were some of the highlights of their previous album. You bother the fuck out of me. So that's it.
Okay. Do you want to say like your favorite album of the year?
Okay.
Album of the year.
My album of the year was Crypt Crawlers to the Grave. Now, this isn't like something I would normally pick, because I'm not the biggest fan of old school death metal. Like, yeah, it has its place, but this album caught me by surprise. And I just found that while I would get bored of an album, it was my default to listen to. Like, anytime I got bored with something, I would just listen to it. And that is just like, to me at least, the hallmark of a great album, because I can keep coming back to it and it never gets old. It's just a 100% quality album, and I'm excited for their new stuff this year. Yeah.
My album of the year comes as no surprise. It's Empath by Devin Townsend. This album was like just the combination of everything pretty much he's ever done rolled up into one. It's just everything, and there's such an emotional, powerful emotional feel behind all of it, even if in its most insane moments. It's just an album I've always been coming back to since it's come out, and it's damn near one of my probably favorite albums ever at this point. It's a ride, and I recommend it to anybody.
Yeah. And album of the decade obviously goes to Black Tongues Nadir. It's sort of like the best album ever made. Gonna be hard to top it. I don't think anything can top it. Jesus could make Butt Thrash, and it still wouldn't be better. Listen to Nadir. If you're interested in any of the albums we talked about, the links to stream or buy them will be in the description.
Damn, you're gonna put all them motherfuckers in the description.
Dude.
What's funny is that I fully warned Marissa before we watched the prequels. I was like, hey, so I really like the prequels. A lot of people don't, and I get it. They're not that great, but I still really like them. You have to get past, some of the worst dialogue from leading roles in cinema. Because, the dude that played Anakin is horrible, and, a lot of the leading roles are just not convincing. She's like, it's okay. And she didn't complain through the whole thing until friggin' Palpatine goes, do it. And then she's like, why did he say it like that?
So, kinky.
All right, on to some more positive review.
You just want me to keep shitting on everything? No. My one listen through the album, I sort of enjoyed it. It just didn't really appeal. I'm not even gonna add that. Don't matter.
We didn't even say the fucking album title of Cattle Decapitation.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Everybody knows
Everybody
it.
knows it. It's Death Atlas. Anyway.
Yeah, the
words come out of your mouth.
Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Lean more this way. Lean more this way.
Okay. So, Leprous, Pitfalls. So, in case you didn't know we liked this album, Inferi released End of an Era Rebirth, which is a re-recording of their album, Rebirth.
No.
No, End of an Era. It's been a day. You want to talk about Equipoise? Speaking of Stevie.
So, what's the Equipoise album called?
Equipoise Part 2. Electric Boogaloo.
I thought it was Part 1.
No, they skipped. They just wanted to do their second album first. They're like Chicken Foot. I too likes the Nadir.
It's such a good fucking album.
It is. Heavy as balls.
Heavy as balls.
I
have never felt balls that heavy.
Yeah.